CM Punk and Drew McIntyre are in a literal blood feud, one that'll set the stage for a dramatic return in a big money match that will feed families, because the story of WWE in 2024 is stories. The key to WWE's explosion in the 2010s has been cinema. Triple H recently said WWE isn't a sport, it's a movie about a sport. I'd argue WWE is Cinemark in this bitch, because it's a whole theater full of movies. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre isn't a wrestling feud, it's a Quentin Tarantino Revenge movie about a wrestling feud. Just like Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley over the custody of Dom is a dark romantic comedy about a wrestling match. Just like the Bloodline is a Family Dynasty drama about a wrestling feud. And Bron Breakker is an action movie about a wrestler. And the Wyatt Sicks is a horror movie about wrestling. If you like movies, you'll find something in modern day WWE that'll hook you. There's even a black wrestling movie featuring The New Day, but because the Final Testament is ice cold right now, everybody's talking over the movie in this black theater. The New Day deserves better. WWE is being run by Hollywood in every way. This isn't AEW where if you don't like greasy men rolling around in a ring, you're shit out of luck. Yes, Zack Sabre Jr. is a wrestler. So is Kyle Fletcher. So is Roddy Strong. So is Katsuyori Shibata and Tomohiro Ishii and McMahon and Dax Harwood. Oh, excuse me. But you know what they all have in common? Nobody under 40 gives a shit. Today, we're gonna talk about every major WWE storyline, their many teases and storytelling devices that capture the viewer's imagination, and how every WWE feud intertwines with one another in ways you didn't even know. Subscribe in Swahili. CM Punk once famously said,
"If you're more happy with some goof saying you had a 5-star match and the building's a quarter full, we're not in the same business."
And he's right. CM Punk is in the movie business. He even looks like every hipster at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Cousin Phil is in the midst of arguably WWE's best storyline going against Drew McIntyre. And like every WWE story that's cooking right now, they're keeping it simple, stupid. In fact, every major WWE storyline can be explained in 30 seconds or less. Are you ready? Drew McIntyre injured CM Punk at the Royal Rumble. CM Punk didn't like that, so he's been screwing McIntyre out of one big match after another. After Punk screwed Drew in his home country of Scotland, a fed-up McIntyre quit this bitch like Inetta the Mood Setter.
I quit this bitch.
He took his ball and went to SmackDown to murk CM Punk in his hometown. That's the story. Stop the clock. It's a story about revenge and violence that's as old as time. In fact, Punk and Drew are directly borrowing from Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels in 1997. And it's building to a CM Punk Drew McIntyre showdown that'll have all the drama of a Montreal screwjob. Now let's do Rhea versus Liv. Start the clock. Rhea Ripley injured Liv Morgan. Morgan vowed revenge and said she'd take everything from Rhea as part of the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. Liv made good on that promise by injuring Rhea's arm, winning the world title Rhea vacated, and now she's closing in on taking Dom, who's finna fold any second now. Time. Dominik Mysterio is a member of the Judgment Day, headed up by Damian Priest. Priest is more of an anti-hero than a heel because he likes having his goons around and everything, but he wants to make it as a world champion on his own. This is causing tension within the Judgment Day and is intertwining with the Liv Dom story because it's starting to look like Liv is hatching a secret plan with Dominik Mysterio to be king and queen of the Judgment Day and betray Damian, who's loyal to Rhea. Then there's the Bloodline, a reckless stable of rogue Samoans who have staged a hostile takeover that makes the elite hostile takeover of AEW look like when a toddler makes a call on a Fisher-Price telephone, like he's a real adult. Adorable. The Bloodline's takeover has led to the destruction of Paul Heyman and will reunite the OG Bloodline with Jimmy, Jay, and the returning Roman Reigns. I also kind of think Paul Heyman will eventually turn heel because you can't trust that slimy Wiseman. Remember, this is the same all-world carny who lied, cheated, and stole his way to the Hall of Fame. Damage Control is having problems, and Io Sky is starting to look at that group the way LeBron James was side-eyeing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals, the year they got swept by the Warriors. Like right before he ditched them niggas for the Lakers. Just like Io will ditch Damage Control to team up with Julia, I hope. Bron Breakker is spearing everything in sight because he's been on a warpath ever since being left out of the King of the Ring. Now that son of a Steiner is on the verge of winning the Intercontinental Championship. Today the doggy is taking me for a walk. I hope it doesn't pop. Who are your 3 favorite elves? Mine are Snap, Crackle, and Pop! LA Knight is in the midst of a long-term chase for the US Championship, and Logan Paul, a goated heel and an even better troll, tried to antagonize Knight by bringing the Pacers' Tyrese Halliburton to MSG. Knight came prepared and brought Jalen Brunson as a backup because WWE is even out here making sports movies. If you like White Men Can't Jump, this is a wrestling movie for you. Except both Logan Paul and LA Knight can jump out the gym. And just in time for the summer movie season, here come the Wyatt Sicks, which is already one of the greatest wrestling horror movies I've ever seen. Turn the timer off, let me cook. By every measure, the Wyatt Sicks have been a home run. They've gotten near universal praise from wrestling Twitter, which hates everything. The first 2 hours of the YouTube video amassed almost 5,000 likes and under 100 dislikes, all of which probably came from Tony Khan and every bot that he bought. In the Wyatt Sicks' most recent segment, fans chanted, "Holy shit!" The Wyatt Sicks are following all the simple rules that make horror movies legitimately terrifying. More with less. You don't ever really get to see the Murder Muppets in their full form. It's usually dark, smoky, and when they do appear, they appear as silhouettes. It reminds me of the movie Signs, where you didn't get to see the aliens that were terrorizing an entire town. In fact, when you finally did get to see the aliens, it took the entire mystique right out of the movie. The Wyatt Sicks isn't a wrestling stable. It's a horror movie about a wrestling stable. And the star of that movie is Bo Dallas. Instead of using hocus pocus magic that makes it hard to suspend your disbelief, the Wyatt Sicks, for now, is a psychological thriller. Dallas appears in therapy-like sessions where we see a man dealing with the real-life trauma of losing his brother by descending into madness. And it's brilliant. WWE is airing pre-recorded videos that are openly telling you that Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy and vice versa. The Wyatt Sicks is also following a pattern that is enhancing their angle in addition with so many others. The pattern of intertwining stories. In fact, let's take a look at how every major WWE story has an element of intertwinement. The Wyatt Sicks are haunting Chad Gable, who was just kicked out of the Alpha Academy for being an abusive coach. Without a family, Gable is helpless and begging the Academy for backup. Typical heel, he's only doing so out of selfish reasons because everybody knows that Chad will end up recruiting the Creeds and abandoning his family when they need him most. Chad is crawling back to the Alpha Academy because he thinks Bo Dallas was talking about him when he referred to false prophets belittling their families for their own gain. And while the Wyatt Sicks are stalking Chad Gable, I don't think they were talking about Gable. I think the false prophet Bo Dallas was talking about is Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline. And if played right, I think the Wyatt Sicks versus the Bloodline could be this generation's Wyatts versus the Shield. The Bloodline is currently feuding with Cody Rhodes, who defeated Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Now Roman could end up returning to help Cody Rhodes destroy the very family he once anchored to try to destroy Cody. And failed, let's go Cody. All this will inevitably lead to the return of Cody Rhodes' likely WrestleMania 41 opponent, the man pulling the strings behind the Bloodline's attacks on Cody, the real tribal chief and the final boss, The Rock. The men's Money in the Bank has a chance to intertwine several storylines. Hopefully there isn't too much outside interference in one match, but there's a chance the Bloodline screws Jey Uso in Money in the Bank, causing him to recruit Roman and Jimmy for revenge. There's a chance the Money in the Bank intertwines the CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud, with Punk either costing McIntyre the Money in the Bank briefcase or the world title that night should Drew win and cash in. Logan Paul could cost LA Knight Money in the Bank, setting up Paul and Knight at SummerSlam. Again, all this shouldn't happen in the same match. Pick one feud for outside interference and rely on long-term storytelling, no AEW. Liv, Dom, Rhea, and the Judgment Day are intertwined for obvious reasons, and I think it ends with Liv and Dom taking over the Judgment Day and feuding with Rhea and Priest. Point is, every WWE storyline is given more layers through its interaction with other stories. That's what makes it cinema. It's the MCU. And just like the MCU, there will be so many epic showdowns between big stars when the dust clears. In fact, here's a list of the top 10 most anticipated big money matches according to you, the mighty subscriber. Survey says... Also, think of all the surprise returns that are just waiting in the wings. Survey says... It's not even WrestleMania season yet, but you never know by how many hot storylines are peaking right now. WWE is cinema. Its Rotten Tomatoes score is in the 90 percentile, and all those professional wrestling AEW gooners are starting to look like fools right now. Check out this video about Chris Jericho's learning tree and subscribe. Thanks, guys. What's your favorite WWE movie? What big money match are you most looking forward to? Whose return are you most excited for? Tell me in the comments!